Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. We're taking a break from the spring campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game, for our yearly Victory in Europe Day tradition. Granted, Victory in Europe Day this year is on a Wednesday, but today's game is too long for that. This game also doubles as game number 4 on this year's Tac Up Wargaming list. We're going to play Black Orchestra from Starling Games. In this game, our goal is to assassinate Hitler in World War II Europe, with the Gestapo and his deputies breathing down our necks every step of the way. Just like last year's game, we're going to play with the trusted deputy variant. How that works is, in addition to Hitler, we'll have to assassinate one deputy that's designated as trusted. Now, we can assassinate any deputy that we want to in this game, but the one that's designated as trusted is one we have to assassinate in order to win the game. The only difference is that the military support will be 2 for the deputies that we have to target for that, but otherwise everything else for the plots will be exactly the same as far as all the rules go. So this is under the theory that whoever's designated as the trusted deputy would essentially be Hitler's right hand and would continue the war if Hitler is removed from power. With that introduction, let's go meet today's conspirators. These two were randomly chosen when I was setting everything up last night. So today in blue, we've got Christoph von Gersdorf, Wehrmacht intelligence liaison. A little bit of history about him. Gersdorf participated in the invasion of Poland and was later involved in the uncovering of mass graves from the Katyn massacre on the Eastern Front. This experience allowed Colonel Tresco to recruit him into the resistance. Gersdorf attempted to assassinate Hitler during a weapons exhibition at the Zeghaus in Berlin, but Hitler left the exhibit too quickly. Gersdorf evaded discovery and helped to record the discovery of the war in his later years. Normally the investigators will start off at timid suspicion and timid motivation and medium suspicion, but Rudolph's special ability is in effect right away, so his motivation can't fall below motivated, and his suspicion can't be lower than medium. So that's where everything will start. He'll do everything in blue. So we'll move his pawn over to the train station where the game starts. With that, let's go meet his partner today. Teaming up with Colonel Gersdorf, or whoever, is General Friedrich Olbricht, Wehrmacht Chief General Army Office. General Olbricht held various high-ranking positions in the Wehrmacht both before and during the war. He remained a supporter of the democratic Weimar Republic, never embracing the Nazi Party or its values. Olbricht designed Operation Valkyrie as a way to hide the opposition's coup attempt in plain sight. He was executed only hours after the plot failed on July 20th, 1944. Probably the most well-known attempt on Hitler's life during World War II. I'm sure there had to be others. He was quite the cheerful fellow. Anyway. So, he has normal suspicion rules, timid motivation, medium suspicion. He'll do everything in green. His special ability at motivated, as an action he can either move 2 spaces or move another conspirator 1 space. So we'll move his pawn over to the train station, and with that we can move over to the board and finish setting everything up over there. I think this looks probably about where we're going to try to come when we move back up top to look at how the board state's changed. So to start the game, we've got the stage 1 spaces right here, plus everything in B for Berlin. Everything in Berlin is considered to be connected to each other, so we do need to keep that in mind. We've got our various deputies as well. We've also got Hitler on the board, who starts at Deutschland Hall. His penalty is -1 motivation. Himmler starts off at Gestapo HQ, +1 suspicion if you're in the space with him. Goebbels cancels your special ability. Hess makes you discard a card. Bormann means you can't conspire. And Goering makes you discard an item. So those are our deputy penalties. We also need to roll for our trusted deputy variant. So the way we're going to do that is I've got a D4 here. We only have 4 deputies we're going to consider. So Himmler is going to be 1, Goebbels 2, Bormann 3, Goering 4. The reason I'm skipping over Hess as a potential trusted deputy is because there are cards in the event deck that make Hess leave the board. So it doesn't make sense to me to consider Hess as a possible trusted deputy for that reason. So Let's give this a roll and see who our trusted deputy is this year. That's a 2, so our trusted deputy this year is going to be Goebbels. Last year it was Goering. So that means we will have to assassinate Goebbels to be able to win this game. 2 Bs on Goebbels? Yes. Okay, so that's all set up. And I think now everything's set up for this game, so let's drop down to the train station and get into Gersdorf's first turn. The turn has 3 phases in it in Black Orchestra. First, you check for Hitler and any deputies, and if there are any in the same space as you, you suffer penalties for everybody there, which we already went through. Except the turn's actually a little bit different, because if you're in prison, the turn will be structured a little bit differently. But we don't have anybody in prison right now at the start of the game. So now that we've checked for Hitler and deputy penalties, we can take up to 3 actions. The actions here are take a component action, anything that has the arrow icon next to it, like you saw on Ulbricht's card. You can collect an item, but you have to reveal it first. So there are 2 separate actions, to reveal and take an item. Conspire limit once per turn. I'll explain how that works when we do it, as I'm sure we will at some point in this game. You can deliver an item, and I'll have more on that when we start revealing some of these items. Take a dossier action, which is to draw a card, a conspirator card, and add it to your dossier. Move, release, but you can't take this action if you're at extreme suspicion. More on that when it becomes relevant. As I mentioned, reveal an item, and transfer, aka trade. In this game, trade is one possession per action, whether it's a dossier card or an item. So we do need to be aware of that. Then at the end of the turn, we'll draw an event. So what I'm going to do with Ulbricht, or with Gersdorf, is he's already motivated, and his motivation can't go below that. So I think he's going to start by digging in the dossier. So for action 1, he's going to draw a conspirator card. He will draw. Accelerate plans. So this is the arrow action I was talking about when you take a component action. And it costs that. Discard this card to add the top 3 cards of the conspirator deck to your dossier, then raise your suspicion by 1. Which actually might be... Yeah, I think that's probably still worthwhile for action 2. So we'll add the top 3... Because I did want to do some digging this turn, so his motivation's going to go, or his suspicion's going to go up to high. First card we're adding to the dossier. A lone gunman, so that's a plot already. Required elements, you're in the same space as Hitler, and at reckless motivation. So there are, generally you need to be at committed, or not, yeah, committed to go with a plot. This one specifies reckless. That gives you a die. Optional elements, Wehrmacht for an additional die, weapons for an additional die, and a badge to let you ignore an eagle. One thing I didn't mention with Gersdorf, let me finish drawing these cards and I'll talk about that. So next card up. Delay Hitler. As a fast action, discard this card. When an event would cause Hitler to leave his space, cancel that movement. Hitler remains in his current space. Resolve the rest of the event as usual. And Poison Parcel. Required elements, you're in the same space as Hitler, and Hitler's in a Berlin space. Optional elements, signature, poison, and map for additional dice. So what I was saying earlier about Gersdorf is because he gets a quick jump on motivation, being unable to fall below motivated, but because his suspicion can't go below medium suspicion, he might be better served going after the deputies, where in theory we'll need fewer dice to take them out. So I do want to keep an eye on that. Now that I've got a couple plots I can start working on, now I want to start moving and revealing some of these items. So I think we're going to move him up to the Chancellery. That's it for Ulbricht's turn. So now we draw an event card. We will draw the Anschluss. Austria is peacefully annexed by Germany. This yellow text at the top, if the stage's key event is in play, ignore this card and draw another. There will be I believe it'll be somewhere in the middle of the card where it'll say key event. I'll point this out when we move back up top, but there is a space on the board for the key event to go once it's been drawn out. Raise Hitler's military support by 1. Move Hitler and Goering to Munich. So Hitler's going to go join Goering in Munich. And then we'll raise Hitler's military support up to 4. Then moving over to Ulbricht's turn. Now that we've got a couple plots that we're aiming at, this could be a good turn to start maybe revealing some items. So I think for action 1, Ulbricht's going to move up to the Zeg house. Action 2, he's going to reveal, so he will reveal a badge, which actually wouldn't be bad for Gersdorf to grab because he's got his lone gunman plot can use a badge to ignore an eagle. Let's see, that was action 2. Action 3, I think we will pick that up. We can figure on trading that over to Gersdorf later. So now we're revealing some text on the Zeg house. This is what I was talking about with the deliver item action. So once an item's been picked up, you'll gain a text effect that you might be able to do, usually to lower suspicion. In this case, at the Zeg house, we've picked up a -2 suspicion, you only for keys. So whoever turns in keys at the Zeg house would have their suspicion lowered by 2. Anyway, now we need another event from the deck. Deputies deployed. The Reich's top leaders are dispatched across Germany. Bormann to Hanover, Goering to Tannenberg, Himmler to Nuremberg. So Bormann to Hanover, Goering to Tannenberg, Himmler to Nuremberg. Okay. So that's all done. Now we're back over to Gersdorf. He's going to reveal the item at the Chancellery for Action 1. Might be a little bit hard to see also, but there's a special icon on the Chancellery. What that means is that item is a fortified space. That's relevant because there are some plots that require a fortified space. So we would need to be on one of those spaces to be able to go for that plot. The item we find here, once it decides to focus, here we are, is intel, which we don't need right now. I just about moved him over to Deutschland Hall, but that might not be a completely terrible idea. So I think we are going to go with that. Action 2, we're going to move him over to Deutschland Hall. And Action 3 will reveal more intel. We've got all the intel in Berlin, but nothing particularly useful right now. So our next event in Plot 1, or in Stage 1, investigations begin. Gestapo agents begin investigating suspicious persons. All conspirators raise their suspicion by 1. Delightful. So Gersdorf is already at extreme, and Ulbricht is at high. That is not good for us. Although it is Stage 1, so we have some time to get our suspicion down before the Gestapo potentially starts coming after us in Stage 2. Over to Ulbricht. Action 1, he's going to move to the Sportpalast. Action 2, he'll reveal the item here. He will reveal, once I flip it over, keys. And we could potentially dump keys for suspicion up at the Zeg house. So Action 3, I think he's going to do that. So Ulbricht's going to pick up the keys with the intention of turning them into the Zeg house to knock his suspicion down. Although it's Gersdorf's suspicion I need to be worried about as well. And the space we pick up, the text we pick up on the Sportpalast, -2 suspicion, you only for badge. So our next event, assassin caught. Maurice Bavaud confesses his plan to shoot Hitler during a parade. The conspirators nearest to Hitler raise their suspicion to high. Move Hitler to the Chancellery. They're both at high or above already, so that part doesn't do anything. Hitler, though, will move to the Chancellery. All right, back to Gersdorf. He's going to pick up the intel with the potential of dumping it off somewhere. And Deutschland Hall, -2 suspicion, you only for a map. Action 2, we're going to move to the Gestapo HQ. Action 3 will reveal the item here. So, Gersdorf will find a badge, which is plot needs, but on the same token, we do need to get his suspicion down. We do have a little bit of time yet, though. Our next event in Stage 1, Party Rally. The Rally of Greater Germany is held at Nuremberg. Move Hitler and all deputies to Nuremberg. So we've got a little bit of time now on that. Now we're moving everybody down to Nuremberg. Okay. Over to Ulbricht's turn. Action 1, he's going to move up to the Zeg house. Action 2, I'm going to grab another cup for this. Action 2, he's going to dump the keys off to bring his suspicion down by 2. So he's down to low suspicion. Action 3, he'll move to the Ministry of Propaganda. Next event up. Visit from Goebbels. Oh, delightful. Goebbels oversees the latest propaganda efforts by local media. Move Goebbels to the space with the nearest conspirator or conspirators. If there's only one conspirator on that space, that conspirator may raise their suspicion to high to raise their motivation by 2. Goebbels just went to Nuremberg last turn with the party rally. So I'm going to send him to... I'm actually going to send Goebbels to Ulbricht because they're both equidistant. Remember, it's one to the train station, and then he can go to either investigator, so I get to choose. In which case, I will have Ulbricht raise his suspicion to high to raise his motivation by 2. It will turn on his ability, except Goebbels will immediately turn it off when he moves, when it comes back to Ulbricht's turn. Over to Gersdorf, though, I think for Action 1, he's going to pick up the badge. And then we pick up at Gestapo HQ, -2 suspicion, you only for intel. So Action 2, Gersdorf's going to turn in intel to bring his suspicion back down to medium. And then Action 3, he's going to move to the train station. Next event, visit from Himmler. Move Himmler arrives unexpectedly for a top-level meeting. Move Himmler to the space with the nearest conspirator or conspirators. That will be Gersdorf. If there's only one conspirator on that space, that conspirator may roll a die. On a roll of 1, 2, or 3, they raise their motivation by that amount. On a roll of an eagle, they raise their suspicion by 2. So Himmler is going to move up to Gersdorf. And then we are going to roll a die. Where do I want to put this with the... we'll put it over here for now. My cup is over here. So we're going to roll a die. On a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, we raise motivation by that amount. But on an eagle, suspicion goes right back up to extreme. That's a 2, so we raise his motivation by 2. He's already reckless. Which, if we can get him... He is Wehrmacht, so we do have the bonus die from that. If we could find weapons, potentially, we might be able to try to go after Goebbels this turn. But we're over to Ulbricht's turn. His ability's canceled, so he can't manipulate movement on the board. Action 1, he'll flip over an item he will find. A signature. Let's see, Action 2, he's going to get down to the train station. Action 3, over to Hanover. Next event, Berlin speech. Set Hitler's military support to its starting value. Move Hitler and Goebbels to the Sportpalast. All conspirators in Berlin lower their suspicion by 1. Hitler gives a speech to supporters at a local arena. So Hitler and Goebbels to the Sportpalast. Hitler's military support back to its starting value of 3, and all conspirators in Berlin lower their suspicion by 1, which right now is Gersdorf, but that doesn't do anything. Ulbricht had to leave Berlin earlier. So back over to Gersdorf, he is in a space with Himmler, so his suspicion goes up to high, which is unfortunate, but no help for that here. He is reckless, so we could try to go after Goebbels sooner rather than later. Especially if I can find weapons and maybe knock his suspicion down another point. Knock it back down. Because I don't want to be trying to roll any eagles. I don't want to be trying to take a plot where I can't roll any eagles safely. So, action 1, he's going to move to Hanover. Action 2 will flip over an item. We will find at Hanover. Weapons, which action 3 he will then grab. The text there, if any deputy is present, -2 suspicion, you only for any item. Alright. Next event out of stage 1. Parade in Berlin. Move Hitler celebrates Heroes Remembrance Day in Berlin. Move Hitler, Goebbels, and Hess to the Zeghaus. All Wehrmacht in Berlin lower their suspicion by 1. While this is the current event, ignore 2 eagles on all plot attempts. Unfortunately, we're going into Ulbricht's turn next. That would have been great to try to go after Goebbels with. Hitler, Goebbels, and Hess to the Zeghaus. Unfortunately, neither of our Wehrmacht officers are in Berlin, so we don't get the benefit of the suspicion. And we won't get the benefit of ignoring 2 eagles on plot attempts either. That is extremely unfortunate. Over to Ulbricht. Still a little frog in my throat. Action 1, he'll move down to Adlerhorst. Action 2, he'll reveal the item here he will find. A map. Do we have a plot that wants a map? We do, actually. I think action 3, he'll grab it. He'll grab the map. And then we'll pick up -2 suspicion, you only for explosives. Plus it's another fortified space, so we might need to be careful of that. Then our last event in stage 1. Munich Agreement. Neville Chamberlain negotiates a treaty with Hitler. So this is what I was talking about with the key event When the next event card is drawn, move this key event to the side of the board. Remove it when the next stage begins. We raise Hitler's military support by 1, and then remove the next 2 stage 1 event cards from the game without revealing them. So Hitler's military support goes to 4. Now we are out of stage 1 events, but we won't officially start stage 2 until we resolve an event from stage 2. So moving back to Gersdorf's turn. Do we try going after Goebbels? We're going to be rolling 3 dice, and we can ignore an eagle. I definitely don't want to go after Hitler, though. That might be worth it. So I think we are going to try it. We can get him up there with 2 actions. Unfortunately, we will be able to roll an eagle safely, because I do have a badge to discard to this plot. So we're going to move Gersdorf 1 to the train station, 2 to the Zeghaus, 3 he's going to attempt to plot against Goebbels. So he's going to so we're going to bring the dice tower in shot. He's going to attempt the lone gunman. So he's in the same space as Goebbels, and he's reckless, which will give him a die. Then he's Wehrmacht, so that gives him another bonus die. then we're going to toss in weapons to give him a third die. And then we're going to discard a badge. Then we're going to discard a badge so we can roll an eagle. We can roll one eagle safely. For the plot, we need to beat the military support, and for the deputies, the military support is always going to be 2. So we're going to leave all of our dice in there, and now we're going to roll the plot. So we need at least 2 targets to assassinate Gehring, but we'll walk through how the plot works as we resolve everything. Well then. Okay, so the first thing we do is we check for any eagles, but we rolled exactly no eagles, so we got away with 1 there. Now we check the number of targets against the military support. Now, if we hadn't rolled enough targets, the plot failed but wouldn't be detected, so we would continue the turn as normal. But because we rolled 2 targets against a military support of 2 going after Goebbels, we have assassinated Goebbels, which means now we only have to get Hitler to win the game. So that was actually very quick for us on getting Goebbels early. So Goebbels is now off the board, which means any event that refers to Goebbels going forward won't be a part of the game. So we'll discard the lone gunman plot. We'll get the dice tower out of shot, and then I'll need to take a small break after I resolve the event for stage 2. So let's see what stage 2's first event card is. We find a Gestapo raid. Oh, delightful. The Gestapo execute violent searches and raids against suspicious citizens. Perform the following steps in order. Conspirators at extreme suspicion are arrested. Nobody at extreme suspicion. For each illegal card in a conspirator's dossier, that conspirator must choose to either discard it or keep it and raise their suspicion by 1. But we can resolve that in any order. We don't have any illegal cards to worry about. And return all dice to the descent track, but there's nothing. Let me tip the camera up just slightly, but we'll see that there are no dice in the descent track right now, which is up here. So that's done. I do need to take a small break. We aren't officially into stage 2 yet because we haven't resolved a stage 2 event yet. And for purposes of that, of the phase transition, the Gestapo event, or the Gestapo raid, doesn't count. So I just want to make sure I make a point of pointing that out. So now we're back into Ulbricht's turn. He's down here in Adlerhorst. Action 1, he's going to go into the dossier, so he will find Slow News Day. Fast action, discard this card. Don't draw an event card this turn. Action 2, he's going to move down to Tannenberg. And action 3, he'll reveal the item he will find. Another signature. Not great, but we've got another stage 2 event coming up. Propaganda strategy. Top deputies meet to discuss a new propaganda campaign. Move Bormann and Goebbels to Munich and reveal the item there. Except it will only be Bormann because we just assassinated Goebbels. So the item here is another signature. So with that, let's actually move back up top to point out a few things and look at how the board's changed. I mentioned this earlier in stage 1 when we were talking about the key event. That space is actually over here. I've left the stage 1 key event over here briefly, just for demonstration purposes, but all of this will move to the discard, will move to a somewhat discard pile, which I'll just use on stage 1 to make storage a little bit easier. And then propaganda strategy will go as the current event for stage 2. So now, it might be a little bit hard to see, but there are numbers on top of the spaces on the board. So we pick up Vienna and the Berghof. The Berghof is a very dangerous space because Hitler likes to travel there a lot. So we do need to be very mindful of going down there. It's ideally go in, do something, get foe. Whether it's like reveal an item or something to that effect. So You'll see as the game progresses, the board will progressively open up more and more. Even though we did manage to take out Goebbels very quickly, I don't think we'll have that same luck with Hitler. I expect his military support to climb and climb and climb, which means we're going to have to lay low for a little bit in this first, I would say the first half of the game at least. Probably into stage 5 or 6. We'll probably be into stage 5 or 6, I expect, before we get serious about trying to assassinate Hitler. But all that ramble aside, let's move back down to... We're back down to Gersdorf's turn. We've got Gersdorf all the way up here at the Zeghaus with Hitler and Hess both. Hitler's deputy penalty makes us lower his motivation by 1, which I don't mind, because he's not going to be our... He's most likely not going to be the deputy that goes after Hitler anyway. I expect that to be Ulbricht when we're ready. When we're ready to send Hitler after... Or when we're ready to send the deputy after Hitler. It'll probably be Ulbricht that we do that with. And then Hess makes us discard a card, so I'm going to toss the event to delay Hitler. Plots are very valuable in this game. I want to be able to hold on to them if I can. So signature poison map is what we're looking for on... That badge is gone. So signature poison map is what we want for the poison parcel. I think with that in mind... Alright, Ulbricht's got the map already. I wonder if this is a good turn to conspire. Probably not. Because we're... Well... This probably isn't a good turn to conspire because we don't need to push the down button on Hitler's military support yet. Although getting more actions could potentially be a very good thing. So I think we're going to go with the conspire action. Mostly so I can get more actions back. So the way that works is you'll pay any number... You'll pay an action per die. For any eagle you get... For any eagle you roll... Any investigators in the space raise their suspicion by 1. We're doing this while Gersdorf is alone. Targets go up on the descent track, which can potentially have benefits. I'll talk more about that when... Let me see if I can pull up and see if I can tip the camera. Yep, we can tip the camera and get the descent track in shot, so I'll keep an eye on that. And then the numbers that get rolled give us that many actions back. So, let's see what happens on this conspire. Alright, we get 5 actions back, but Gersdorf's suspicion goes up to extreme. So we need to be very careful with that. In fact, it may be worth using intel at the Gestapo HQ to push the down button on his suspicion. Which I think we're going to do. So action 1 over to the Chancellery. Action 2 will pick up intel. And the text there for delivering an item is -2 suspicion, you only for weapons. Action 3 over to the Gestapo HQ. Action 4, toss the intel to bring his suspicion down by 2. And action 5, Action 5... Actually, I'm going to move the dice tower out of the way because I'm looking at my options. Action... I don't need a signature because Ulbricht is right on top of a signature in Tannenberg. So he can grab that if we need it. Although, I was looking at going over to the Ministry of Propaganda and having him grab a signature as well. But I don't think we need that right now. So I think we've got a couple signatures out as well. We've got signatures in Tannenberg and Munich as well. So we're definitely not hurting for signatures, but I don't want to move to the train station with Himmler waiting there. So I think we are going to move over to the Ministry of Propaganda. Next event for Stage 2. Party Rally. The Rally of Peace is held at Nuremberg. Once again, it's sensitive to the key event, but the key event is not in play. Set Hitler's military support to its starting value. Move Hitler and all deputies to Nuremberg. While this is the current event, any conspirator that moves into Nuremberg sets their suspicion to low. Ooh. Question is, can we take advantage of that? So Hitler's military support to starting value. Hitler and everybody to Nuremberg. I think it might be more important to try to take advantage of the... And also, with this poison parcel, Hitler isn't going back to Berlin, most likely, until later in the game. So that might be a long game plot anyway. Alright, so we're over to Ulbricht's turn. It might be worth him pushing the down button on his suspicion. So I think he's going to go action 1 to Adlerhorst, action 2 to Nuremberg, set his suspicion to low, and then action 3, he immediately has to travel to Munich. So another event from the event deck. Another one sensitive to the key event, but we've got Czechoslovakia invaded. Czechoslovakia surrenders to Hitler with little resistance. Raise Hitler's military support by 1, and move Hitler to Vienna and reveal the item there. So Hitler's military support goes back up to 4. He moves to Vienna, and then we reveal the item here. We find poison, which we need for the poison parcel. So that might be a tempting idea. Over to Gersdorf. Possibilities. If I can get them together, I can move the poison parcel over to Ulbricht, but again, Hitler's not likely going back to Berlin for a long time. So, So it's Gersdorf's turn. What do I want him to do? I think action 1, he is going to pick up the signature because there are places we can dump that off, like at the Ministry of Propaganda. Action 2, he'll draw a card from the Conspirator deck. He will draw. Another slow news day. Action 3, he'll go digging in the Conspirator deck again, so he will draw. Vital information. Action, discard this card. Choose a card from the discard pile and add it to your dossier. Alright, nothing we particularly need right now in the discard pile. But we do need another event from the event deck, so here we will find Strategy Session. High-level discussions of military production take place. Himmler, Göring, and Hess to Adlerhorst. Hess, Göring, Himmler. Over to Adlerhorst. Okay. Ulbricht. I think Ulbricht's turn is going to be pretty quick. Action 1 to Vienna. Action 2, poison. Action 2, pick up the poison. If stage 2, -2 suspicion, you only for any item is the text that we reveal. Action 3, Bormann's in Nuremberg. Action 3, nope out, back to Munich. Card for the event card. Visit from Bormann. Bormann checks up on local party leaders. Move Bormann to the space with the nearest conspirator or conspirators. If that conspirator is alone, they may discard 1 card or item to lower their suspicion by 2. So he's going to move down to Munich and pay a visit to Ulbricht to lower their suspicion by 2. He's already low suspicion, so we're not worried about that. So I'm not going to bother with that. Back over to Gersdorf's turn. We might have almost everything in place except for Ulbricht getting his motivation up. So, is it worth the risk to conspire? It might be, actually. Yeah, I think we're going to risk a conspire here. Even though a couple eagles makes him vulnerable to a Gestapo raid. I think the conspiracy risk here is worth it. Especially since we might have a chance, if we can find a better plot, of ending this game quickly. Alright, that's 3 actions, but his suspicion goes up to high. We're trying to push the down button on the descent track, but that might be a losing battle at this point. So 3 actions back anyway. And his suspicion goes up to extreme. That might be worth dumping the signature for, and I think it is for action 1. So that'll bring his suspicion back down to medium. Action 2 to the train station. Action 3 down to Nuremberg. And then a card from the event deck. Sudetenland occupation. The Wehrmacht occupies the German-speaking Sudetenland. Raise Hitler's military support by 1. So now it's a 5. That's great. But also to be expected at this point of the war. Ulbricht means we can't, with Bormann in the space, means we can't conspire. So I think the best we can do is get ready. Action 1, we'll pick up the signature. If stage 1, -2 suspicion, you only for any item, so that's not relevant here. Action 2, I'm going to get the 2 of them together. And action 3, I'll move the poisoned parcel over to Ulbricht, which means we need to sit on that pretty much the entire game and keep Ulbricht from having any kind of problems. The event for stage 2 this time. The invasion of Poland. Uh-oh. The Wehrmacht enters Poland and the free city of Danzig. This is the key event. Raise Hitler's military support by 2. How delightful. Although, again, to be expected at this point. Alright, over to Gersdorf. Well, we're not pushing the down button on Hitler's military support at this point, because it's already maxed out. I think we're going to just keep drawing cards. So back into the conspirator deck we go. Card 1, action 1. A sniper. Same space as Hitler, reckless motivation. For a die, optional elements. Abwehr, which neither of our conspirators are. Weapons with an asterisk, that means you can use multiples of that element. And intel for additional dice. That's another plot option if we want it. Action 2, we'll draw another card. Leaked travel plans. This is an illegal card, so when a Gestapo raid comes up, we might have to discard this. Action, discard this card to move Hitler up to 3 spaces, or a conspirator up to 3 spaces. Well, this is a choice, because if I want to do this, we're not beating a military support of 7 in a million years with this poisoned parcel. So I wonder if we just... Unless we surprise... I mean, there are cards later on in the game that can set Hitler's military support to its starting value, but I think most of those are going to be late in the game. But in the unlikely event that Hitler comes back to Berlin, and we might be able to draw him back. I'm not guaranteeing that, but there's a chance we can. So I think we're going to dump Leak's travel plans, mostly because I also don't want illegal cards in the dossier in case of another Gestapo raid, which would make me discard it anyway. So I'm going to move Ulbricht back to Berlin, especially if I think I'm going to gamble on trying to get a card that resets Hitler's military support and then draw him back to Berlin. So we're going to move Ulbricht 1, 2. We'll move him to the Chancellery. So the next event card coming out of the deck is ignored if the key event is in play, and the key event for stage 2 is in play. I'll move that off to the side. So that was the Nazi-Soviet pact, but again, because the invasion of Poland is already in play, we ignore that, so we're drawing again. Anti-Semitic laws. All Jews are required to carry ID cards and passports stamped with a J. All conspirators raise their motivation by 1. Okay, that means Gersdorf is at reckless, and now Ulbricht is at committed. So if we're able to draw Hitler back to Berlin somehow, then we can potentially try the poison part. We have to, well, we have to get his military support down and then try to draw him back to Berlin. So over to Ulbricht. We can also potentially try to screw with the military support, but I don't think that's very likely to happen at this point. So actually, we could potentially, if we can get the military support down, we might be able to do this actually, but we still need something that can reset Hitler's military support first. Because I realize that we might have a way to do this. It's going to require a little bit of luck, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. Ulbricht's action 1 is going to be to conspire. Two actions and a die up on the descent track. Alright, so action 1, he's going to draw a conspirator card. He will draw Acts of Sedition. Discard this card to either lower Hitler's military support by 1, or conspirators in your space raise their motivation by 1. That would make him reckless, which is not that useful. And if we need something that resets his military support, down by 1 isn't going to be that helpful. So I think we're just going to draw again. He will draw Derail Train. Required elements. You can only attempt this plot immediately after an event card moves Hitler. You must be at committed or reckless motivation to attempt the plot using a die. Optional elements, civilian, intel, and map, which we're not civilians, but we do have a map available. First event card for stage 3. Visit from Hitler. Interesting. Hitler requests an immediate meeting to discuss the Western offensive. Move Hitler to the space with the nearest conspirator or conspirators. If that conspirator is alone, they may set both their motivation and suspicion to their starting levels. Unfortunately, well, I actually don't mind this too much because the conspirator is Gersdorf, but I'm not setting his motivation and suspicion to their starting values. So that will move over, and then we'll move back up top to see how the board state's changed. Well, we drew Hitler closer to Berlin, but the problem is his military support is way too high. And I don't think this is the stage where that's going to come down. So we do need to be very mindful of that fact. But we have picked up 5 new spaces in the board. So we've got Prague, Posen, the Wolfschanze, Warsaw, and Anlage Sud. The Nazi war machine is marching steadily eastward. So those spaces are not... We also have Zurich open to us as well, but that's a +1 suspicion space. There are cards in the conspirator deck that require us to be there, though. So we do need to be very mindful of that, but that's not a problem for right now. What is a problem for right now, though, is dropping back down to Gersdorf into his next turn. We're going to be steadily zooming out and out further for the gameplay shots as the board continues to open up more and more. So we've got Gersdorf, who's starting the turn with Hitler on the space. That just decreases his motivation by 1, which brings him down to committed. But again, he's not our deputy in charge of assassinating Hitler anyway. So, right, with 3 actions, I don't want him to still be in Nuremberg. We could move him over to Prague, which I think I will do. I think I'll move him over to Prague. Then we'll reveal the item here. We'll find a map. It wasn't wanting to flip for me. In action 3, we'll move him up to the train station. Next event for stage 3. Western Offensive. Oh boy. This is sensitive to the key event, but the key event is not in play. The Western campaign continues. Move all Wehrmacht to Adlerhorst. Oh, that's a huge problem because we've got 3 of our conspirators. We've got 3 of the deputies there. That brings us to Ulbricht's turn. He's got Hess there, which is going to require him to discard a card. I don't think we're using the derail train, because we definitely can't get enough dice on that now. Himmler boosts our suspicion by 1. Goering makes us discard an item, which is going to be the badge. Action 1, Ulbricht's going to flip all 3 of them the bird as he moves up to Hanover. Action 2, actually, he's got a special ability. Yeah, he does. So he can move 2 to the train station for action 1. Action 2, he's going to get Gersdorf out of there. And action 3, he's going to move 2 to Wolfschanze. And then stage 3, our next event, a Gestapo raid. Do we have anybody at extreme suspicion? We do not. For each illegal card in the dossier, we'll toss the acts of sedition, because again, if we're going to try to assassinate Hitler, we need something that resets his military support or bring it down over the course of the game. And then all dice on the descent track get returned. So that's, well, we only had 1 die there anyway, so that's not that terribly unfortunate. Right. Over to Gersdorf, who's going to try to conspire, so we can try to put some dice up there, try to sow some dissent. But that's not been going well for us this game. We get 2 targets up there and 3 actions back. So we might be able to start pushing a little bit of the down button on Hitler's military support. Action 1, he's going to draw a card, so he will draw. Distant contact. Action, discard this card to choose 1 item in any space, revealed or unrevealed, and add it to your conspirator sheet. Actually, I'm not going to use a cup for these items. I'm going to do it this way, because I want to be able to see what's been discarded. So I can figure out if I need to fish in the discard or guess what's likely to be out somewhere. Okay, so that's action 1. Action 2. He's going to move to the train station. And action 3, he's going to draw a card. So he's going to draw a suitcase bomb. You're in the same space as Hitler. Hitler in a fortified space. That's what I was pointing out earlier with the Chancellery, and there are a few other spaces with it for a die. Optional elements, Wehrmacht for a bonus die. Explosives for another bonus die. And a badge lets you ignore an eagle. Okay, so we've got some options as far as the plot we might want to try to execute. But we need to get Hitler's... But before we do that, we need to get Hitler's military support back down. Stage 3 event. Visit from Goering. Goering conducts an unscheduled inspection of local Luftwaffe installations. Move Goering to the space of the nearest conspirator or conspirators. If that conspirator is alone, they may discard any number of items. For each item discarded in this way, they lower their suspicion by 1. So Goering will move up to the train station with Gersdorf, and he doesn't have any items. So that doesn't do it. So he can't do anything with that. As for Ulbricht, action 1, he'll reveal the item at the Wolfschanze he will find. Explosives, which we just had we had Gersdorf just pick up that plot. We need it. I think action 2, he's going to move down to Warsaw. And action 3, he'll reveal the item here he will find. More explosives. So all the explosives are out east. We need the next event. London bombed. The Luftwaffe conducts bombing raids over London. Raise Hitler's military support by 1, except it's topped out already. Move Hess to Prague and reveal the item there, except the item has already been revealed in Prague. We know it's a map there. Back to Gersdorf's turn. Goering would make him discard an item, but Gersdorf doesn't have an item to discard, so we just ignore that penalty. Action 1, he'll move over to Posen. Action 2, he'll reveal the item here he'll find. A badge, which there's a -3 suspicion distributed for badge. Action 3, he's going to conspire, F it. Plus we're at a point where one more target pushes the down button on the descent track, pushes either the down button on Hitler's military support or the up button on somebody's motivation. There's a target, so now we can either raise motivation by 1 or reduce Hitler's military support. I don't think we're using the sniper. I also think we're probably fighting a losing battle right now with Hitler's military support, but I am going to push the down button on that. So those come off. We don't need motivation right now, but let's take a look at our next event for Stage 3. The Gestapo raid. Good thing we got the dice off the descent track, so more violent searches and raids. Conspirators at extreme suspicion are arrested, that's nobody. Reach a legal card on a dossier, we don't have any, and return all dice to the descent track. So now we don't have to worry about a Gestapo raid, and the reason I'm able to tell that is we'll zoom up to the top of the board for a second. Let me zoom out there. So it might be hard to see, but on each stage you can see a number of SS icons on the game board. That's how many Gestapo raids could possibly be in that event deck. We remove 2 cards when set up at the start of each game. So since I've seen 2 Gestapo raids in Stage 3, I know there aren't going to be any more in this stage. There's a possibility of 4, and then of 2 in Stage 4 again, and then 3 for the rest of the game after that. So we do need to be mindful of those Gestapo raids, but they also let us plan a little bit when we can potentially let our suspicion drift up. So that is something to keep an eye on. Coming back to our immediate concerns in the game, however, that is back to Ulbricht's turn, who's in Warsaw. I think he's going to conspire as well. See if we can continue to work on either get a lot of actions back, or again, now that the Gestapo raid is clear, we won't have to worry about any dice going up on the descent track. And we haven't seen the key event yet, so that could be potentially something to take advantage of. Alright, so we get a target up. The Eagle boosts his suspicion by 1, and then we get 2 actions back. So action 1, I think he is going to grab the explosives, and we pick up -3 suspicion distributed for intel. Then action 2, he's going to move back to Posen. Then the next event in Stage 3, Jews targeted. All Polish Jews are required to wear a yellow Star of David at all times. All conspirators raise their motivation by 1. Move Himmler to Warsaw and reveal the item there. So Himmler now moves over to Warsaw, and we see that we have no item there. So both of our conspirators are now at reckless motivation, which really doesn't do anything for us, except potentially open up the sniper, but we're most likely not using the sniper plot. Unless we find a lot of weapons, but I'm expecting the weapons here to be toward this end of the board. Maybe some over here, but I have a feeling most of them are over here. So, back to Gersdorf's turn. Action 1. He's going to grab the badge. And then we have -3 suspicion distributed for badge, which we're going to discard that for action 2. Since we've got Ulbricht right here, we can push his suspicion down to low. Of course, Gersdorf's can't go below medium. Then action 3, he's going to draw a card. He's kind of hemmed in right now, so he'll find. Stalled investigation. Action, discard this card. All conspirators, including you, lower their suspicion by 1, and it is illegal. But again, we're not worried about that right now since we don't have any more Gestapo raids that we're worried about. We have another event from stage 3. We find invasion of Norway. German forces invade neutral Norway. Raise Hitler's military support by 1. So that's why we might have been fighting a losing battle with the military support at this stage of the game. Moving over to Ulbricht's turn. How many cards do we have left in stage 3? We have 2 cards left. Again, I'm surprised we haven't seen the key event yet, but it might be part of what we nailed during setup. So, what do I want Ulbricht to do for his actions? Let's see. Reveal. Move to Nuremberg. Reveal. Nope out. That's a thing we could do. So I think Ulbricht is going to move to Nuremberg for action 1. Action 2, he's going to reveal the item here he'll find. Keys. We could use Hitler to bring us down away from reckless motivation, because we don't really need reckless motivation. But yeah, I think we're just going to grab the... Actually, his item slots are full, so we can't pick up the keys, which means action 3, I think we will just nope out. So we'll go to Hanover. Card here. Sea Lion postponed. This is the key event. Hitler postpones the invasion of Britain after heavy losses during the air campaign. All conspirators lower their motivation by 1. Alright, so now we're both down to committed motivation. The event took care of that for us anyway. Over to Gersdorf. Do we just keep digging? I think we're going to conspire, actually. We still have dice. We still have a die up on the descent track. Alright, so that's another target. 2 actions, and Gersdorf's suspicion goes up to high again. Action 1. Action 1, I think we're going to go to the Wolfschanze. Action 2, we're going to pick up the explosives. And we pick up -3 suspicion distributed for keys. Next event from stage 3. Berghoff retreat. Hitler enjoys a visit to the mountains. Move Hitler, Himmler, Goebbels, and Bormann to the Berghoff. Remember, Goebbels has been assassinated. Hitler, here's Himmler, and Bormann to the Berghoff. This is what I mean about the Berghoff being one of the most dangerous spaces in the game. Back over to Ulbricht. I think we're going to try the Conspire again. We're into stage 4 now. And if I remember correctly, this is about the part where things start to go completely pear-shaped for the Nazis. I could be wrong on that, though. Things go completely haywire for them. We get 6 actions back, but we don't get to do anything with the descent track. So we could definitely get in there. We could definitely get into the Berghoff, maybe get the item and nope out. Well, actually, you can't get the item because he's full on that. Could we potentially reveal... Let's see, that would be 1, 2, reveal 3, 4, 5, 6. We could reveal both remaining items in stage 3 before we get ready for stage 4, and I think that's what we're going to do. Action 1, he's going to move 2 to Tannenberg because of his special ability. 2, moving into the Berghoff. Action 3, he'll find More keys. 4, moving out to Vienna. 5 up to Anlage Sud. And 6, he'll reveal the item here, so he'll find. More poison. Stage 4 event coming up. We find Africa Corps. Rommel begins his campaign in North Africa. Raise Hitler's military support by 1. Move Bormann and Goebbels to Prague. So Bormann to Prague. And now that we're into stage 4, let's move back up top to look at how the board's changed once again. Once again, the Nazi war machine's continuing its march eastward. We start to open up Stockholm, Riga, and 2 of the most ominous spaces on the board, Treblinka and Auschwitz. Those give you +2 motivation, but also +1 suspicion. If you look closely, and you might have seen this on Wolfschanze and Anlage Sud earlier, they've got a 7 with a circle and a line through it. What that means is, once we get into stage 7, those no longer become accessible spaces on the board, simulating the Nazis' retreat eastward or westward from the Soviet Union. There's also the same spaces on Wolfschlucht and Paris. I've got to guess on what the key event is going to be in this stage, but there are 2 possibilities that I think it might be. Anyway, we'll see which one it is or if it comes up. Anyway, let's move into... We're back into Gersdorf's turns. Let's zoom back down to the board. We're probably just going to be back up. We're probably just going to end up being back up top by the time we get into stage 5. So anyway, for Gersdorf's turn, what do I even want him to do at this point? Maybe move out, at least reveal the item in Riga? Yeah, I think we'll do that. So he is going to move up to Riga for action 1. Action 2, he'll reveal. Once it decides to focus, he will. Here we are. Weapons. We do have the sniper. Action 3, he'll grab him. That'll at least keep our options open. So our next stage 4 event is the War Conference. Move Hitler and all deputies to Anlage Sud and reveal the item there. Well, that's going to cause Ulbricht some problems. Because now everybody's landing in Anlage Sud. Delightful. And it's now Ulbricht's turn, so he's got all the deputy penalties. Hitler is going to knock his motivation but down by 1, which is going to make him motivated, which means we can't do the poison parcel, not that we were going to anyway. Hess will make him discard a card, so he'll discard the Slow News Day. Let's see. Goering will make him discard an item, so he'll discard the explosives. Himmler is going to bump his suspicion up by 1 up to medium, and Bormann says he can't conspire. Joy. Alright, action 1, he's going to pick up the poison. -3 suspicion distributed for poison. We need to get Gersdorf down there, but I'm not sending him into that lion's den. Action 2, he still has his ability, so he's going to nope out to... Where's he going to nope out to? He can't nope out east, so he's got to nope out west. Oh, and Riga gave us a civilian, -2 suspicion, you only for any item. But both of our conspirators today are Wehrmacht, so that's not going to be relevant. He's going to nope out to Munich, especially as I'm thinking we want to try to draw Hitler back west anyway to Berlin. And then action 3, he's going to move up to the train station. We may need to go into Berlin to dump some of these items. So another event from the event deck we will find. A Gestapo raid. Fun, fun. All right, nobody's at extreme suspicion. Our only illegal card is a stall investigation, which I'm going to discard that because I don't want to bring Gersdorf up to extreme. And then our 2 dice come off the descent track. That's the one that hurts the most. Right now, anyway. Okay. Now moving over to Gersdorf's turn. Now that we've got the item, there's really no reason for us to be that far east. So I think action 1, he's going to move to Wolfschanze. Do we have a card from the discard pile that we might want? Well, we could use Philippe's travel plans. I think we're going to conspire with his last 2 actions. I think this is about the point of the game where we can potentially start bringing Hitler's military support down a little bit, but I don't remember. We get a target and 3 actions back. So a die up on the descent track. Alright, so action 1 coming back. Card from the discard pile and add it to your dossier. If I felt better about where the weapons were. Well, that might still be worth it. So we're going to distant contact, choose an item revealed or unrevealed, and add it to the conspirator sheet. So we're going to pick up the item in Werewolf. So we'll find more intel, which we can dump at the Gestapo HQ. And then the text revealed, if Wehrmacht, -2 suspicion, you only for any item. That was action 1. Action 2 over to Posen. And action 3 to the train station. Next event in stage 4. Fall of Kiev. The city of Kiev is captured by the Wehrmacht. Sensitive to the key event, but the key event is not in play. Raise Hitler's military support by 2, but it's already topped out. Back to Ulbricht's turn. Let's go action 1 to draw a card, so he will draw. Security clearance. While in your dossier, illegal cards in your dossier are ignored during a Gestapo raid. Action 2, I think he'll draw again, so he will draw. Forged release orders. Illegal. Action, discard this card, release 1 conspirator from prison regardless of your location. Move the released conspirator to Gestapo HQ at medium suspicion. And remember, he's got the security clearance, so that's ignored. And he'll draw... I kind of want to conspire next turn. Especially since we've had one of the Gestapo raids come out already. So, I think... I think somebody's going to conspire, and I would rather have them separated when I do that. So, I think... I think we're going to send Gersdorf. Where do I want him to go next turn? I could send him to Wolfschlucht and reveal the item there, assuming I get enough action. So I think I'm going to send Gersdorf in the direction of Hanover. Action card 4, or event card from stage 4. Visit from Himmler. Himmler continues secret investigations in the area. Move Himmler to the space with the nearest conspirator or conspirators. Let's see. He's on Ledge Sud. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, looks like it's going to be Ulbricht. And then all Wehrmacht lower their suspicion by 1. Oh, that's bad. Because Gersdorf's down to motivated, and now Ulbricht's special ability is turned off. So now I think we do need to conspire badly. So Gersdorf is going to conspire for his first action. He's going to put all 3 of his actions into this. We'll bring the tower back in shot. There's nothing I can do right now about his suspicion. I'm just going to have to take the risk and hope for 2 targets. Which I get 3, so I'm essentially going to return those back and leave the one that's up there already. So I will get Ulbricht's motivation back up to motivated. That was his entire turn. But I need his special ability. I need to keep him very mobile. So next card up. Operation Barbarossa. Okay, I've had a feeling this one, either this or the other great power entering the war was the key event, but this one's it. Hitler breaks the non-aggression pact and invades the Soviet Union. Raise Hitler's military support by 1, which is, again, it's already maxed out. Goering to Posen. And that is the key event. So anything that has the text about the key event being in play for stage 4 will now get ignored. Alright, so that'll bring us back over to Ulbricht's turn. Suspicion goes up to high because Himmler's right there. I don't think I want to try the plot right now. Signature poison map. I definitely don't want to try the plot now because I can't roll any eagles safely with it. So I think I want to get his motivation, not his motivation, his suspicion down. The question is how. Unfortunately, I don't have any spaces where I can easily get his suspicion down. Especially not without sacrificing anything I need for the plot. Because there's nowhere in Berlin I could dump an extra poison off. We do have another map on the board, so that might be an option. Let's see, can we get in, dump, and then get back to the map? We can do that, but that's not going to solve the problem of we need to get Hitler's military support down. Actually, we have a few things we need to do. We don't need to get the poison parcel over to Ulbricht. That's not one of our problems. But we have a problem with the military support being way too high, and we need to get Hitler back to Berlin. That may be Christoph's detail. Because we could actually get Hitler to the train station, but I don't think I want Ulbricht there when Hitler, to start his turn with Hitler there. So, for action 1, I am going to move up to Deutschland. Actually, let's conspire first. Maybe I can get some more dice to, maybe I can get some more actions to work with there. I wouldn't mind getting a bunch of actions back here. Alright, that unfortunately does bring Ulbricht up to extreme suspicion, but there's no help for that right now, which means he is vulnerable to a Gestapo raid. The die goes up to the descent track, and we have our original 3 actions back. Action 1, he is going to go up to, well, now it's more urgent. Now he's going to go up to Deutschland Hall. Action 2, he's going to discard the map to bring his suspicion down by 2. So he's not just vulnerable to a Gestapo raid. Then action 3, he's going to move to Prague with the plan of picking that up on his next turn. So stage 4 we find. Another Gestapo raid. Good thing I brought his suspicion back down. Conspirators at Extreme are arrested. That's nobody. Each card, an illegal card in a dossier. We do have the forged release orders with Ulbricht, but because he's got the security clearance, those get ignored, and we lose the 2 dice on the descent track. That is very annoying. But now I think we've had both of the Gestapo raids in stage 4. Yep. So now we can let suspicion go up a little bit. Anyway, that'll bring us back over to Gersdorf. There's a possibility that I might want to try to get Himmler out of the way here. That seems risky, though. Well, actually, I can't even do that because he's not even committed. And he would need to be reckless to do the sniper anyway, so never mind that plan. Just go reveal the item at Wolfschlucht, I think. Action 1 to Adlerhorst, 2 to Wolfschlucht, and Action 3 will reveal the item here, so we'll find another map. So we've got map options out here. Event from Stage 4. Hess leaves Germany. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Hess flies to Scotland in the hopes of securing peace with the United Kingdom. Lower Hitler's military support by 2, so it's down to 5. Remove the Hess deputy token from the game so he'll stop harassing us. And while this is the current event, ignore 1 eagle on all plot attempts. And that's why when I rolled for Trusted Deputy at the start of the video, I didn't consider Hess as the possibility for the Trusted Deputy. Back to Ulbricht. Let's start with the Conspire. Thankfully, with all these items coming off the board, it's getting a lot easier to put the dice tower down. Six actions back, which isn't terrible. Oh, I gotta move the key event Barbarossa over there. Okay. So we have 6 actions back. I think action 1's gonna be to grab the map. -3 suspicion distributed for signature, which we can pick up another signature, but I don't need to get his suspicion. I could pick up another signature because there's one over in Tannenberg that I could get to this turn. And I think I'd rather get Gersdorf I'd rather get the two of them together so I can lower his suspicion with it. Unfortunately, I won't have enough actions to get Gersdorf back and Ulbricht down to Tannenberg with the signature. Actually, it would take me 3 actions, 4, 5 to pick up the signature, and then 6 back to Nuremberg. I'd be a space short. So, Alright, well. Alright, I think we just go digging then. So action 1, he'll draw a card. He will draw Delay Hitler. We saw this earlier, but we had to discard it. I think actions 2, 3, and 4, I'm going to pull Gersdorf back to Nuremberg. Actually, 2 and 3 back to Nuremberg. Actually, I could discard the signature if I wanted to, which I think I will. 4, I'll pull him back to Prague as well. 5 will discard the signature and both go down as low as our suspicions can go. Ulbricht to low, Gersdorf to medium. 5, he's going to move over to Adlerhorst. 6, he's going to send Gersdorf over to Nuremberg. Stage 4 event. Hitler assumes command. Hitler takes direct control of all Wehrmacht operations. Lower Hitler's military support by 1. Move Hitler to Wolfschanze and reveal the item there. So Hitler moves to the Wolfschanze. We also lower his military support by 1. And then we reveal the item there, except there's no item there. Gersdorf. The question now becomes, can we set... We still need to get Ulbricht's motivation back up. Maybe his military support, maybe Hitler's military support down 1 more, because right now, well, I need to go get him a signature first. So he has an extra die, so I don't want to try the plot right away. But now his military support's potentially getting low enough, where if I can get Hitler back to Berlin, now I could try the plot. I think we're going to start with the Conspire. Bring the tower back in shot. Yikes. 2 eagles and a target. That's a problem. We're not vulnerable to a Gestapo raid now, but we are going into stage 5. So let's see what our event is in stage 4. This is the last one at that. Yugoslavia surrenders. Yugoslavia is conquered by the Wehrmacht. Raise Hitler's military support by 1, Himmler to Paris. So 5, Himmler to Paris. All right, moving over to Ulbricht. I definitely don't want to lose that die on the descent track, because now we're getting to a point where we probably need to start pushing the down button on Hitler's military support. So I think we're going to start off with a conspire. Well, I guess what am I looking for here? Am I looking for actions or am I looking for targets? Now we're getting into the point of the war where Hitler's military support's probably going to start dropping a little bit more. So I guess I won't say no to either one. So there's a target and 4 actions. That'll work. Action 1, down to Tannenberg. Action 2, grab the signature. Action 3, Action 3, move 2 spaces to Hanover. Action 4, draw a card. So he will draw. Coup d'etat. Required elements in the same space as Hitler. Hitler in any Berlin space for a die. Signature for multiples, and 2 dice for all conspirators in the same space. Well, that might change the plot I go for, because I'm presuming we have at least one more signature in this group, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. Stage 5 coming up, stage 5 event. Berghof retreat. Hitler, Bormann, and Goebbels to the Berghof. While this is the current event, ignore 1 eagle on all plot attempts. So Hitler and Bormann to the Berghof. Remember, Goebbels is dead, because we assassinated him earlier. And now, once again, let's move back up top to see how the board's changed. Now the entire board's open to us as our last 4 spaces open up to us. Vervolf we opened earlier. Borisov, Smolensk, and Wasserburg are now open to us as the Nazi war machine pushes further and further into the Soviet Union. So, now that we've got that, we've got Hitler over here. Where did Hitler end up? Hitler is down at the Berghof with the most recent event, as is Bormann. Himmler's still in Paris. Goering's still in Posen, and Hess left the board earlier in the turn. So, we're moving into Gersdorf's turn, so let's move back down to the board. Gersdorf's already extreme suspicion, and I need to get his motivation up quickly. So, actually, let's conspire first. Again, I don't want to lose the 2 dice on the descent track to a Gestapo raid. Plus, he's already at extreme suspicion, so the plan here is to hopefully get a target and enough actions here to get Gersdorf over to Auschwitz and back out. Yes, he's going to gain a suspicion, but he's already at extreme suspicion, so nothing's lost from that point. I just want to push his motivation up. Alright, that really didn't help anything, but the target will let us either push somebody's motivation up naturally, or I think we're going to push Ulbricht's motivation up naturally. And then for 1 action, Gersdorf's going to move over to Prague. At least we aren't going to lose those 2 dice to a Gestapo raid. Unfortunately, Gersdorf is vulnerable to a Gestapo raid. Visit from Bormann. Uh-oh. Move Bormann to the space with the nearest conspirator or conspirators. If that conspirator is alone, they're arrested. And of course, both of our conspirators are alone. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So it's over to Gersdorf, and he is arrested. But we knew he was going to be vulnerable to that anyway with the Gestapo raid. Actually, we could pull him out with Ulbricht, which we might have to do. So, let's start with the Do I want to conspire first and risk losing my actions, or do I want to use the forged release orders first and make sure I have them and lose an action to that? I think I'd rather take the sure play and use the forged release orders to get Gersdorf back out at medium suspicion. I think that's probably a much better plan. Yes, I'm going to be conspiring with one less action, but the risk I think is too great, where if I miss on this conspire, then I won't have the actions to get Gersdorf out. And we get 2 more targets back up on the descent track. So we're still, in a way, vulnerable to a Gestapo raid. Let's find out what happens in Stage 5. Oops. Preferably without sending some of Stage 6 flying. Lebensraum. The stage's key event is not in play. Rumors of horrific mass killings begin to filter in from the Eastern Front. All conspirators raise their motivation by 1. Himmler to Wasserburg and reveal the item there, except we picked up the Himmler to Wasserburg, which is, it's actually up here, and reveal the item there. So we reveal more weapons. Right, so motivation goes up by 1. Ulbricht is now reckless, and Gersdorf is now committed. So I think there should be one more signature out here. I'm probably going to have to send Ulbricht. It's going to take him a while to get out there, but actually he's probably the faster of the two. So Gersdorf, what is he doing this turn? Now that suspicion's back down all the way. Let's send him into the deck a little bit more. Action 1, he'll draw, so he will draw. Airplane access. Action, discard this card to move to any legal space on the board. That could be very useful. Action 2 will draw again, so he will draw. Moment of truth. Action, discard this card to add 2 dice to a plot you attempt. I want to move that over to Ulbricht because of the security clearance. So action 3, we're going to move down to the train station. Event from Stage 5. Rommel defeated. Okay, this could be helpful. The Afrika Korps is routed at El Alamein. Lower Hitler's military support by 1. Remove the next 2 Stage 5 event cards from the game without revealing them. So Hitler's military support's down to 1. And the next 2 Stage 5 events come out of the game. Over to Ulbricht's turn. We could start to set this up, potentially, to try for the game here. Well, it would be probably next turn before we try for it. Well, let's start with Conspire and see what our options are. Because now we can get Hitler's military support down. Getting him back to Berlin might be the problem. Okay, there's a target, so we will push the down button on Hitler's military support, so that's down to 3. Now we've got 4 actions. Well, let's see. Trying to set this up. I think what we're going to do here is we're going to start action 1, Ulbricht into the Ministry of Propaganda. 2, he's going to pull Gersdorf in. 3, pull the airplane. Actually, he's going to pull both the airplane access and the moment of truth over. So that's both of his actions there. Then for stage 5, we find... Oh! Those dice are gone from the descent track. So now we're basically invincible to a Gestapo raid. The Gestapo raid is basically a blank at this point. Which that is not. Casablanca Conference. The Allies call for the unconditional surrender of the Axis powers. All conspirators lower their motivation by 1 and must discard a card from their dossiers. Well, that's not going to affect... That's only going to affect Gersdorf's ability to do a plot. But I think we're going to discard Delay Hitler and Slow News Day. So I think the question now is... Now it's Gersdorf's turn. Actually, that might have been a bad idea. Slow News Day, I believe, was in... Actually, we're going to discard the sniper from Gersdorf instead of Delay Hitler. Because I think we're going to try to win the game here. So, Gersdorf's turn. He's going to discard Vital Information as an action to pull back... Where is it? Not that one. Here we go. Leaked travel plans. Then action 2, he's going to discard that to move Hitler up to 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3 back to the train station. Then action 3, he's going to draw a card, so he will draw. Poison food. You're in the same space as Hitler. Hitler's in a Berlin space for a die. Civilian gives you a bonus. Poison from multiple gives you bonus dice and intel. Alright, stage 5. Visit from Goering. Goering attempts to punish unfaithful party officials. Move Goering to the space with the nearest conspirator or conspirators. All Abwehr lower their motivation by 1, but we have no Abwehr in the game. Alright, so it's over to Ulbricht's turn now. Goering makes us discard an item. We're going to discard a poison. And now I think we are going to go for it here. So, action 1, he's going to move down to the train station. And then action 2, he's going to try the poison parcel, since we are still at committed motivation. So Hitler's in a Berlin space, which will give Ulbricht a die. Then we're going to toss the signature, poison, and the map. Map, poison, signature. For 3 more dice. And we're going to use Moment of Truth to give him 2 more dice. So that's a total of 6 dice. We'll bring the dice tower in shot. We're up against Hitler's military support of 3. And we're at low suspicion, so we can roll 2 eagles safely. We need at least 3 targets to be able to assassinate Hitler and win the game. So let's see how this goes. Going through everything in the plot. So we didn't roll any eagles, which means the plot isn't detected. Which means the plot didn't get detected. Then we check against the number of targets, against Hitler's military support. We were up against a military support of 3 for Hitler. There are 3 targets in there, which means we have assassinated Hitler and we have won the game. With that, let's move over to a special shot and wrap this video up. We managed to stop the madman before he sent the world into total ruin, thankfully. Now I'm curious if Documents Located was in the deck in this game. It was. It was also the first card of Stage 7, so things would have went sideways for us very, very quickly. Good thing we got rid of that. Good thing we got rid of Hitler when we did. So that will do it for this playthrough of Black Orchestra. Wednesday we're venturing from World War II Europe to the baseball diamond with the game of Inside Pitch Baseball. Saturday Mystical Munchies will continue out of the Star Wars Galactic Baking Cookbook with the side. Puffer Pigpocket Pizza. Next week, we're back to the spring campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game, with the third scenario for the Dreamers as they venture to the dark side of the moon. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.